anything with the name of Jose Silva as the author has my vote before I open to page 1. Wayne Dyer. Jose Silva was an incredible man, and I remember he was my idol as a teenager because his book completely changed my life. But Jose's story is absolutely fascinating. I won't be surprised if it gets made into a movie sometime. Jose Silva was born in the tiny border town of Laredo. There's Laredo in Texas and Nuevo Laredo on the Mexican border. And this little border town is where there's a massive exchange of goods and people between the United States and Mexico. Jose was really a product of both countries. Now, one day, while being part of the US Army, Jose Silva was going through a routine Army mental health checkup. And that's where he noticed that there was a psychologist who was assigned to ask him questions. It was just a routine thing, but he grew fascinated with psychology and he started picking up and reading more and more books on psychology. That led him to study hypnosis, which fascinated him. You see, Jose Silva, as a side job, was a radio and TV repairman. He had a little shop repairing radios and televisions in Laredo, Texas. Now, he knew as a repairman for radios and TVs that if you take a wire and you increase the resistance of that wire, less electricity can flow to it. If you reduce the resistance of the wire, more electricity flows through the wire. It's basic high school physics, right? But understanding psychology and hypnosis, he started to wonder, is there a form of resistance in the brain? What if we reduce the resistance in the brain? Can our brains operate more efficiently? Now, the path to reducing that resistance, he called it programming or centering. So he would use a specific hypnotherapy script to get people to relax. It was a combination of hypnotherapy and guided meditation, except that back then in the 60s, the word guided meditation wasn't really used. So in his writings, he tends to refer to it as hypnotherapy. Now, he went on further, but the science of biofeedback had started to become popular. Back then, scientists knew there were 4 levels of brain frequency: beta, or the waking level; alpha, or more relaxed level; theta, or slightly sleepier level; and delta, deep sleep. Jose wondered, is the brain moving into alpha and theta a way of reducing that resistance? Now, Jose had 10 kids, and he wanted his kids to do better in school, as most parents did. So he came up with the brilliant idea of experimenting on his children. So he made his kids guinea pigs, and he started experimenting with his kids. Now, I know that sounds bizarre today, but this was the 60s. Certain things were more acceptable. So Jose Silva would put his kids into a guided meditation and then read them important elements from their school textbooks. He found that they could remember better when they were in this alpha or slightly relaxed level of mind with their eyes closed. And then he would ask them questions and they could recall better. Okay, now you'll find that too. When you learn this program, you will learn how to go into the alpha level of mind and increase your reading and your memory speed. Now, we know this today. If you can move your mind to the alpha level of mind, the relaxed level, which you will learn in this program, you can remember and retrieve information faster. So that was what Jose was investigating, but then something curious happened. He was experimenting with one of his children. I believe it was his daughter, Isabel. And he would ask Isabel a question from her book. Let's say it was a history book, and Isabel would answer. But the curious thing that happened was Isabel started answering as Jose Silva formulated the question in his mind. Before he could verbally speak the question, she would answer. In other words, he might think the question, who was the 16th president of the United States? But before he could verbally say it, Isabel would answer. This rattled him. What was going on? He was a devout Christian. He couldn't figure out how his daughter was able to so-called read his mind. So he wrote to Dr. J.B. Ryan of Duke University. J.B. Ryan was the famous doctor who pioneered research in extrasensory perception. And he asked J.B. Ryan, he told J.B. Ryan, I think I figured out a way to train children to be intuitive. J.B. Ryan dismissed it. He said, no, intuition is real, but your daughter was probably intuitive to begin with. Jose Silva disagreed. So he trained all his kids. Then he trained the neighbor's kids. And then the neighbors started getting fascinating. What is this man doing to our children? They were scared a little, but at the same time, their kids' grades were going up. So the neighbors came and they said, Jose, can you teach us how to do this? So he started teaching little classes in Laredo, Texas. Now, what he found that it wasn't just intuition that was emerging from accessing these states. People were seeing pain disappear. They were seeing their happiness levels go up. And there was this one chap who had migraines for the longest time. And after learning from Jose Silva, his migraines disappeared. He wrote about it in the local newspaper, and the next class was completely swamped. The Silva method was born, and it spread across America. Soon, it was being used by the Chicago White Sox. It was being used by famous celebrities of the time, like opera singer Margarita Piazza. It had come into mainstream America, and the New York Times, the Washington Post featured articles on the Silva method. And that was how the Silva method was born. Jose went on to write a book which sold well over 1 million copies, and the Silva method, as it spread globally, ended up graduating some 10 million students over 3 to 4 decades. But the story doesn't end there. There was a point in Jose's research before the Silva method exploded, and he found a way to actually turn it into a viable business when he found that the work he was doing was so fulfilling, but it wasn't making him any money. And he decided that he had to give it up. He had to go back to just running his radio business. One night, he tells in his biography, he grew so frustrated that he flung his psychology book across the room and decided to go to sleep, promising himself that he would never dabble in this again because he needed to earn a living. That night, he had a weird dream, and he said he saw a figure of the Mother Mary. Now, Jose was a Christian, and he said he doesn't think that it was anything to do with the Mother Mary. It was just his representation of godliness. In other words, if you were a Buddhist or a Muslim, you might see your representation. But the funny thing was, the Mother Mary gave him a 4-digit number. So he wondered, what is this 4-digit number? And the first thought that came to him was, there must be a car with that license plate, and I need to meet the person who owns that car. So Jose Silva decided to keep his mind open for any car in Laredo with that 4-digit number. Now, as it happened, he was going to his radio repair business, and a friend came to him and said, "Hey, Jose, I'm about to swing south across the border to Mexico to pick up some goods. You want to come with me?" Jose said, "Sure, I'm not having a busy day. I'll come with you." So they got in the car together to drive across the border to Mexico. And as they were driving across the border to Mexico, Jose told his friend about the 4-digit number in the dream. They went to the shop to buy goods in Mexico. And as Jose was picking up his goods, his friend called him over, and his friend said, "Jose, look, they're selling a lottery ticket here. Isn't this the number that came in your dream?" And it was. Jose bought that lottery ticket, and he ended up winning $10,000. That gave him the amount of money he needed to continue his research. $10,000 back then is almost $50,000 today. That's a lot of money. It allowed him to go back to his research, but it also puzzled him. He said, look at the weirdness that happened. It wasn't just a dream. My mind didn't just give me a number, it showed me an image to reinforce that this was coming from a higher power. It then caused a synchronicity to happen where a friend came to invite me to Mexico because that winning lottery number wasn't on the US side, it was on the Mexican side. Another coincidence happened when my friend happened to see the lottery number. Jose himself thought it was a car license plate number. All of these strung together, it was like a ripple, a warping of reality that gave him the cash infusion needed to take the Silva method forward. And he realized he was onto something. Now, this is an important lesson to you. What you're going to learn here is not just information downloads. What you're going to see is that, and this is harder to explain, but I experience it time and time again in my life, synchronicities, coincidences, luck, moving you towards where you need to go. This is the power of the Silva method, and this is what this program is going to take you through. Jose developed this process from 1953 to 1999. That's almost 50 years of refinement and fine-tuning. He was a guy who never stopped. He continuously refined the program. The work that you're getting emerged shortly before he died. So this is his highest level work, Silva Ultramind. And he tested these ideas on millions of people. Every word you hear in this program was put there for a reason by Jose Silva. In this program, you're going to go through not just lectures, but you're going to go through programming scripts where Jose Silva's words, read by me, are going to program your mind with different abilities. Every word in that script is there for a reason, and the results are powerful. This program doesn't just shape you at a cognitive outer brain level. You're going deep into your subconscious and shaping you at a subconscious level. That is where the power of Silva lies. A lot of people talk about meditation. A lot of people talk about visualization. This was the most structured meditation process I've ever learned. This provided me with some of the ideas I used to develop my later 6-phase meditation, which is used by so many elite sports people and performers. The Silva method is also the most structured method I've ever found to develop intuition and to apply this in day-to-day life. What you're going to learn here is truly one of the most powerful programs ever developed in the entire field of personal growth. So, thank you for joining me for the second warm-up video, and I'll see you tomorrow for warm-up 3.